there's this Jewish author, Yoni Brenner. He writes for a column in the New Yorker, which is called Shouts and Murmurs. They're little silly stories, little jokes that are collected. So I found a few of his best ones that have to do with Hanukah, and I figured I'd share with you now. Before I begin, all of us, well, not me or Rabbi Drew, but everyone else was alive in the 60s. You know who the Beatles are, right? John, Paul, Ringo, George, more Beatles? All right, good. So this first story is called The Last Maccabee. "Hear me, O God," he shouted as he raised his broad bronze sword to the sky. "Though you may test me, my sorrow shall be a grindstone, my suffering shall be a crucible, and I will not rest until this sanctified land is delivered into the hands of the righteous." He beat his chest and let out a piercing war cry that struck fear into the hearts of his enemies. 5 minutes later, he was escorted out of the building by security, and although no one pressed charges, Kyle Maccabee would never work at Walmart again. This is a story called The Visitor. On a bitterly cold night, in the outskirts of Vilkenich, Velvel the tailor and Gronem the milkman were playing a friendly game of dreidel when they heard a knock at the door. Surprised, Velvel opened the door to find an old man with a long gray beard shivering in the darkness. Quickly, Velvel brought him into the fire and served him barley soup. When the color returned to the old man's face, he noticed that the others were playing dreidel, and he asked if he might join them. What followed was the greatest exhibition of dreidel that the two men, or any man or woman or child, had ever seen. In less than an hour, the old man had parlayed 12 kopecks into 60 rubles until his companions had nothing left to gamble. Astonished, Velvel asked how it was possible for a man to have such luck. "My friends," the old man replied, "it's not luck. I am the prophet Elijah, come to reward your generosity with innumerable heavenly blessings." The men rejoiced, and they kissed Elijah's hands and his cheeks, and the prophet blessed them, and he blessed their houses and their animals. But you see, he somehow neglected to give back that 60 rubles that he won. In the course of the holiday, the prophet Elijah would go on to repeat the scam 23 times. We'll come back to Elijah a little later. This one's called The Brightest Light. And for being about a brightest light, it's actually a little dark. Bear with me. There was a little candle, a little Hanukah candle, named Blue. Blue lived in a box with 44 brothers, and all year they waited for Hanukah, when a boy would reach into the box and place them into a menorah for all the world to see. But when the first night of Hanukah came and the boy reached into the box, he didn't pick Blue. Nor did he pick Blue on the second night or the third night. Blue was heartbroken, for he thought he would never sit atop the menorah. Finally, on the 8th and final night of Hanukah, the boy reached into the box, and whom should he draw out but Blue? And the boy said, "Blue, because you were so patient, I'll make you the shamash, and I will light you on fire first, and I will use your flame to kindle the rest of your brothers." Blue went pale. "Wait, what did you just say?" True to his word, the boy placed Blue atop the menorah, and as Blue was slowly incinerated by his bright little flame, he screamed with joy, or at least we assume that's what it was. Okay, here's the Beatles story. "What's the matter, Ringo?" John said, handing him a handkerchief. Ringo blew his nose. "It's the 4th night of Hanukah," he sniffled, "and I haven't gotten a single present." "Well, that won't do," said John, and he set off to tell the rest of the Beatles. "A present," Paul said. Well, I suppose I could give him this banana. A present, George said. I suppose I could give him this zipper. Then John took a mason jar and filled it with dirt. My present will be dirt, John said. That night, the Beatles threw the most tremendous Hanukah party that the UK had ever seen. Ringo was overwhelmed. He never imagined that Hanukah could be so fun or so rewarding, especially since he had only learned of its existence earlier that morning. Incidentally, it was also the time that the Beatles were doing a lot of drugs. In the Book of Redemption, the celebrated medieval Jewish philosopher Nachmanides describes a distant land where everything, the houses, the roads, even the synagogue, is made of potato latkes. And running through this savory land are two broad rivers, one flowing with applesauce and the other with sour cream. And on Hanukah, the Jews of Latka land gather at the confluence of the two rivers so that they can top their latkes with a dollop of each. Incidentally, this was also around the time that Nachmanides was doing a lot of drugs. So now we're back to Velvel. Our friend Velvel, who had lost 60 rubles to the prophet Elijah. Standing at the gates of Eden, Velvel the tailor watched with apprehension as the angel weighed his sins and virtues upon scales of justice. And although Velvel had been honest in his business dealings and had recited the Shema every single night without fail, his penny pinching and his habit of stuffing his neighbor's mezuzot with prosciutto scrolls had tipped the balance against him. Just as the angel was about to cast him below, Velvel remembered the night when Elijah had come to his house in the guise of an old man and fleeced him at dreidel. And so, hearing the tale, the angel called on Elijah, and Elijah appeared before him. It is true, Elijah said, corroborating the story. It was a cold night, and Velvel showed me great hospitality. At that moment, Elijah mounted the scales of justice and tipped the balance towards righteousness. Suddenly, a 20-person SWAT team appeared and surrounded Elijah. Within seconds, the prophet was under arrest, charged with 89 counts of fraud. The angel shook Velvel's hand. "Thank you for your cooperation," he said. "We've been trying to nail this guy for years." "Glad to help," Velvel said, removing his wire. "Now how do I get back to Earth?" The angel shifted awkwardly and said, "Well, Velvel, you're still dead." So he's got plenty of, if you ever have a chance, look up Yoni Brenner. He's, I think, one of the funniest Jewish writers still doing it today.